But like, I absolutely hate this notion that like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying like Israel has a lot of influence on American media, especially with respect to the mainstream media coverage that's anti-Semitic. It's not anti-Semitic. You're a dingus, dude. Literally, look at the way that the American mainstream media and like the international Western mainstream media cover the Palestinian struggle. They either don't do it, or when they do, they're like, everyone's Hamas. Everyone's Hamas. Israelis have been murdered by Hamas, whereas Palestinians keep dying. How are they dying? Who knows? They perish on their own.
To the Security Council, it is your prime responsibility to ensure peace and security. Please live up to the UN Charter.
But Mr. Ambassador, can we not separate the fact that there are calls for peace and for equal human rights, both sides, for Palestinians and for Israelis, without anti-Semitic talk and rhetoric? And we are seeing an increase in anti-Semitism.
Oh,
to ensure peace and security, please live up to the UN Charter.
But Mr. Ambassador, can we not separate the fact that there are calls for peace and for equal human rights for both sides, for Palestinians?
From who? Are there calls for peace for within the Israeli government? Because I don't think so. I think that's a delusional take.
Palestinians and for Israelis, without anti-Semitic talk and rhetoric, and we are seeing an increase in anti-Semitism throughout the world. Many of these protests are showing signs and images of anti-Semitism as well. Shouldn't you be condemning that?
I will not justify any rocket attacks, and I cannot justify and I cannot condone the aerial bombardment that is taking place.
But what about anti-Semitism? And what about Hamas's role in stopping the rockets?
I am saying when you do not engage, when there are no negotiations, when there is occupation, when there's genocide, when there's war crimes, when there's ethnic cleansing, then an extremist element takes advantage of that situation. Avoid it. How do you avoid it? You avoid it by pursuing a two-state solution, by adhering to the Security Council resolutions, respecting them, implementing them, fulfilling the promises that have been made and have been often broken. So, I believe that the answer is Israelis and Palestinians living side by side in peace, and it can only be done through a two-state solution, through negotiations, by cessation of hostilities, and ceasefire is the first step in that direction.
Does that include condemning anti-Semitism and condemning statements?
I am not justifying any of that.
You began this conversation. I am so sorry. There are so many things I want to talk to you about, but I personally am offended as a journalist. You began this conversation by saying that Israel, suggesting that Israel has, quote, close friends and powerful friends in the media. That is an anti-Semitic trope.
No. What I'm saying is the perception. Look at the perception the world has. You cannot ignore that, ma'am.
But that's a wrong perception.
What? Dude, okay, that's bullshit. I didn't realize he actually clarified his position. Like, yeah, it's a bad way to go about it, but that is so stupid. Here's how you shut that down. Is Israel a ethno-state? I didn't realize Israel was an ethno-state. I didn't realize that Israel was trying to ethnically cleanse all of the Palestinians from occupied Palestinian territory, in which case, yeah, it's really unacceptable that you're you're defending this violent ethno-state. Okay? Why is it that criticism of Israel, or saying that Israel gets favorable coverage from mainstream media, an anti-Semitic trope? The words that he used can be weaponized against Jewish people. The words that he used, they control the media. Definitely not something you can say. Okay? Because you can get easily clipped out of context. Okay? Even if you're talking about Israel itself. Same with like Israel hypnotized the world, right? That was a sentiment that still gets used over and over again. Also, there's no slur here. I think they're saying anti-Semitic conspiracy. Regardless, but like Israel does control the narrative in its entirety until recently. Israel has controlled the narrative around the ongoing occupation. Claiming that it does not is f***ing psychopathic. I'm sorry. Shut the f*** up, you little babies. What do you literally want the dumbass American and Western media to do? To literally just fucking go there and be like, give me a gun. Give me an Uzi. I'm going to spray a Palestinian child myself. That's literally what you're f***ing asking for. If you think that mainstream media has not almost universally for the longest time refused to cover Palestinian struggles as though Palestinians are full-blown human beings. That is insane to me. That's anti-Semitic. That's anti-Semitic. Shut the fuck up. Israel bombed the Associated Press building. And 2 days later, the Associated Press fired someone because American conservatives were like, this person is anti-Semitic because they went to a Palestine protest. Are you insane, dude? Are you insane? 35 states in 35 American states, especially Texas, which is the most erroneous, most ridiculous one. You cannot support boycott, divest, and sanctions and still be a public school teacher or get a job. It's nuts. And you're going to sit here and act like Israel does not have a significant amount of influence over the American Congress and the actions that we take? Are you insane? That's crazy, dude. 35 American states. You cannot say, I want to be a part of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, which is a peaceful movement that was created after the original BDS movement against apartheid South Africa. That is nuts. It's nuts. It's insane. You want people to literally horseshoe theory confirmed. What horseshoe theory? What horseshoe theory confirmed? I'm sick and tired of idiotic neoliberals be like, oh my God, I can't believe Hasan is criticizing Israel. He must be a Nazi. It's only similar Nazi rhetoric if you legitimately consider that like literal anti-BDS protest bills that completely go against the First Amendment is acceptable in any capacity. Go ahead, answer for yourself. It's anti-Semitic to criticize a far-right, ultra-nationalist, ethno-state project? Are you f***ing insane? That is not what being a Jew is about. If that's what being a Jew is about, you are literally hurting other Jewish people by sucking them into your psychopathic, bloodthirsty cause, dude. All right, what is horseshoe theory? No, this is a enlightened centrist take where they're like, I just look back when atrocities are happening and say they're simply too complicated for me to deliberate on, while literally siding unironically with the oppressor because I'm taking inaction. I'm choosing inaction in the face of injustice, which is basically siding with the oppressor. Ha! Horseshoe theory. You are just the same as the Nazis. All these debate lords, like, they come in, they pop in, they drop a little bit, they drop a little tip in the bucket, and then they get out. It's crazy.
Negate it.
Well, someone
by giving a balanced coverage, negate it.
The onus is not on those who are being accused of things that aren't true. It's on people like you in powerful positions to say that that's wrong.
Well, what we are saying, what is wrong, and I'm not shying away from that. What I'm saying is, this insanity must come to an end. We must promote dialogue. We must sit and talk, and we must promote peace. Israelis.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Pakistani foreign minister, peak of powerful position. I mean, at least they got nukes, right?
And Palestinians, everybody has a right to live. They have a right to protect their children. Look at what's happening. 230 innocent people have been killed. More than 50,000 people have been displaced. 50 schools have been bombed. Hospitals have been targeted. Red Cross has been targeted. The AP office, media outlets have been targeted. And what they're saying is, okay, if you think there was Hamas presence there, why don't you have an independent investigation?
Well, I believe that Israel did provide in some information and shared intelligence with the U.S. But let's go back to the other side, because there are obviously Israeli casualties as well. And I keep bringing this up.
I mean, dude, yeah, because fucking misstepped and said something that can be perceived as anti-Semitic because it's literally a anti-Semitic trope. Because of that, all of the good points that he's making for 11 minutes long is just like, is gone.
More Hasan.
Is gone. I hate this, dude. It's just like so cancerous on discourse. It's so nasty.
Because if you're going to be an honest broker, then you have to approach something like this objectively, and that doesn't seem to be the place where you're coming from.
Well, I am objective, and I would want to be objective.
He said they have influence over the media, or they have friends in the media or something when talking about Israel, okay? And it was objectively not a good thing to say. Sorry, because of this, because of this. You'll literally, there's two reasons why this is objectively bad, okay? An objectively bad thing to say. One, because it is something that Nazis do say, so you are playing into the anti-Semitic conspiracy that like Jews can control the media or some shit, okay? When that's not true. And two, your words will literally hogtie you. A motherfucker will literally turn you into a human pretzel if you say something like that in the middle of a broadcast while you are talking about Palestinian oppression. Okay? Sorry, it's the truth. People from marginalized backgrounds know this. If you are facing reactionary opposition to your cause, you, as a singular individual, are responsible for all members of your community. So as a Muslim, this Pakistani foreign minister should know better. Yeah. Sorry, it is absolutely an expectation that I have. It's the truth. If you are Muslim and you are speaking on behalf of other Muslims, or if you are speaking on behalf of Palestinians, especially Palestinians, you cannot fuck up. There is no room for misstep. They will literally turn you into a goddamn pretzel immediately. You will be considered anti-Semitic, and it's done. It's over. You can't. No one mentioned Jews. He said Israel, isn't she self-reporting? It doesn't matter. Even the phrasing alone is easy to just articulate and flip over. Especially as the Pakistani foreign minister, you should know better, dude. Come on, are you kidding me? Now, in particular, because he's a Pakistani official, it'll be dismissed as, of course, the Muslim guy hates on Jews. Yeah. Oh God, I can't wait for literally round-the-clock coverage of this shit, okay? Like, this is, if you think the sushi incident is like already doing the rounds, and like anytime there's like a anti-Semitic attack, if it is legitimately anti-Semitic or not, doesn't matter. But like, just like the case in Canada that was like a JDL guy, okay, the Jewish Defense League guy, who was literally a far-right psychopathic ultra Zionist, ultra-nationalist. It's going to get broad coverage. Everyone will talk about it because this is what conservatives do. This is what reactionaries do. They find an instance where they can be like victimhood, especially in an instance where like we're talking about Jews as a whole, where the victimhood is legitimate. Okay? In most instances, anti-Semitic attacks are real, and it happens, and it hurts Jewish people as a whole. That's the biggest difference. That's why you have to also be super careful. One, because you don't want to play into anti-Semitic conspiracies, and two, because you don't want to give them any sort of legitimacy whatsoever, and two, it'll be used against you if you don't talk about that. It'll be used to brush off war crimes of Israel.